Narrator voice, calm, reflective, suspicious. They say you can never really go home again. For Maggie Holloway, stepping back into Willow Creek felt like entering a frozen photograph. Same brick-lined streets, same corner diner, same perfectly trimmed lawns, but something about the air had shifted. It was quieter, thicker. Maggie hadn't planned to stay long. Just a quick visit to settle her late aunt's affairs. Maybe catch up with a few familiar faces. But everything changed the moment she saw Lena Carter, her childhood best friend, the girl who once knew all her secrets. Only, Lena didn't feel like the same girl anymore. Cut to emotional music swells. They met at the Willow Creek Park. Lena wore that same sunflower pendant she always had, but her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. She hugged Maggie tightly, too tightly, and whispered, "You should have never come back." Then just like that she pulled away and changed the subject like nothing had happened. That night, over wine and old photos, Lena confessed something that didn't sit right. Some things in this town, they look pretty on the outside, but rot underneath. Maggie asked questions. Lena dodged them, but her hand trembled every time the wind howled outside. Has effects. Clock ticking. A knock at the door. Silence. They said goodbye around midnight. Lena's last words, "Promise me, if something happens, don't trust what they tell you." Cut to. The next morning, Lena was gone. No note. No text. No call. No signs of struggle. Her house looked untouched, except her phone was left behind. Screen cracked. Battery drained. Maggie's heart pounded. She called the police, then her parents, then anyone who might know something, but answers were in short supply. The town, once warm and familiar, now felt cold and closed. People whispered when Maggie passed. The sheriff asked too many questions. Questions like, "What were you two fighting about? Did she seem unstable to you?" By the end of the day, Maggie realized something terrifying. She was the last person to see Lena alive, and someone wanted her to forget that night ever happened. But she wouldn't. She couldn't. Because buried inside Lena's cryptic words was a warning Maggie hadn't yet begun to understand. Fade out with rising tension music. Willow Creek was never loud about its secrets. That's what made them so dangerous. Maggie couldn't sit still while the police played their polite small-town routine, filed papers, shrugged shoulders. She dug where no one else wanted to look. First stop, Lena's house. Again, everything was exactly as she'd left it, except, this time, Maggie noticed the attic door was cracked. Inside, box, childhood toys, a stack of old church newsletters, and tucked beneath them, a leather-bound journal, nearly empty except for one sentence scribbled across the first page. "Don't trust the ones who wear smiles on Sundays." SFX. Church bells ringing distantly. Maggie's stomach dropped. Lena had been volunteering at St. Briar's, the town's oldest church. She remembered Lena saying something once about late-night meetings and prayer circles that weren't exactly about God. Maggie went there the next day. The doors were locked, the basement windows blacked out, but as she walked around the building, she spotted a torn flyer wedged under a loose siding panel. Community Fellowship Thursdays at 10 p.m., disciples only. Disciples. What was going on in that church after hours? She circled back at nightfall, parked 2 blocks down, and crept around the back. Through a crack in the window she saw shadows, heard murmurs. Not prayers, arguments. A man slammed his fist on a table. Someone else whispered. She told the outsider. The outside. Maggie's hands trembled. Cut to. Police station. Next morning, she tried to tell the sheriff about the secret meetings, the journal, the flyer, but he just leaned back in his chair and said, "Lot of people grieve in strange ways, Miss Holloway. Maybe you're just seeing things." Dismissed. So she did what Lena would have done, dug deeper. She found a back room in the town library marked archives. The room reeked of dust and secrecy. There, she found a red folder with 6 names. Lena's was the last one. Each name had a date, a photo, a single word beside it. Missing. SFX. Clock ticking. Thunder rumbling outside. Maggie's breath caught. The dates stretched back nearly a decade. And something else, scribbled along the bottom margin in shaky handwriting. They always make it look like they left on their own. Suddenly, every moment since her return clicked into place. Lena's fear, the town's silence, the church's locked doors. Maggie wasn't chasing a missing person. She was chasing a cover-up, and the deeper she got, the more obvious it became. Someone was watching her. Maggie couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't think about anything but that red folder. 6 names, all gone. all forgotten, all erased. And now she knew why. The church, the fellowship, the whispers behind closed doors, they weren't just rumors, they were operations, controlled silence, masked as faith, and Lena had tried too late to expose it. The final piece fell into place when Maggie visited Lena's childhood home. In the attic, behind a loose plank, she found an old metal box wrapped in plastic. Inside a ledger, payments, dates, names, transactions marked clean X, and the one that made Maggie drop the book. Her father's name. She froze. The man who raised her. The town's beloved former mayor, listed next to a 5-figure transfer labeled Redbird April 20. Redbird. The same trail name used in Lena's email account. Maggie's knees buckled. Her father had paid for someone's silence, or disappearance. Was it Lena? Cut to confrontation scene. That night, Maggie drove to the edge of town to the old closed-down lumber yard behind the church. She'd seen it circled in Lena's journal. One last clue. She stepped out of her car, flashlight in hand. The ground was soft, recently disturbed. She started digging. After just 2 feet, the light caught something metal. A bracelet. Lena's sunflower pendant. Maggie fell to her knees, but before she could process it, a truck pulled up. 2 figures emerged. She ran, back through the woods, slipping in the mud, lungs burning. She didn't stop until she reached the sheriff's house. Not the station, his house. She shoved the ledger into his hands. Arrest me if you want, but read it first. He read twice, then called for backup. By dawn, arrests were being made. Church elders, prominent business owners, one school principal, all connected, all complicit. But Maggie's father, gone, disappeared just before the raid. No note, no goodbye, just one line scrawled on the bathroom mirror in shaving cream. Some truths can never be untold. Narrator voice softens. Lena was found. Not alive, but not forgotten. Her pendant now hangs in the park she once played in, a quiet memorial. Maggie stayed in Willow Creek, not because she felt safe, but because someone had to watch now. And when newcomers ask what this town is like, she just smiles and says, beautiful on the outside, but you'd better ask what's buried underneath.